Hey everyone, it's December 13th, and that means that if today's your birthday, you share with French serial killer Yvan Keller, known as the Pillow Killer, who murdered at least 23 victims and may have killed as many as 150 beginning in 1989, and that is him right up there. I'd like to apologize for my terrible French pronunciation, and by the way, this is one of only 2 photos I could find of the guy, none of which had any other people in them. Born in 1960 as one of 9 children, his father worked as a miner and his mother died when she was just 49, after which Keller went on to work to help support the family. But he also became engaged in a life of crime, being arrested many times as a teenager and finally receiving a sentence of 10 years in prison for an armed robbery in 1984. He was released early in 1989 and moved to Mulhouse, France, which is roughly 25 miles from the border where France, Germany, and Switzerland meet, and is best known as the birthplace of the director of Ben-Hur and video game creator David Cage, who's behind the dumbest plots in video game history. Keller started a landscaping business and did well for himself, with clients usually very pleased with his work, and his neighbors said he was an ideal person to have in the neighborhood. He briefly lived with a woman who later claimed that he was hiding a dark side, and that he had forced her into prostitution in order to fund his addiction to gambling and desire to visit fancy hotels and casinos. After that relationship ended, he took up with another woman who was already seeing someone. Keller went to that man's home and put a gun in his mouth, threatening to shoot him if he didn't agree to leave her. Soon after he moved to the area, seniors in the Basel, Switzerland area began turning up dead in their own beds, as well as just across the border in both France and Germany. These deaths largely weren't considered suspicious at the time to the authorities, despite some family members insisting that their elderly relatives appeared to be in unusual positions that seemed out of character. It turns out that Keller was killing elderly women and stealing their valuables, using his landscaping business to scout out potential victims. He would smother them with a pillow, making their beds so it appeared as if they had just died in their sleep, and sold the things he stole from their homes to pawn shops. Keller was investigated as early as 1991, but not enough physical evidence could be found to tie him to any deaths, and the authorities weren't even sure there was anything to investigate to begin with. In the few cases where deaths were investigated, relatives of the victims were the suspects who faced scrutiny. In 1993, a former friend attempted to alert the authorities to what was going on, but was ignored, and the same happened with his brother in the year 2000. It wasn't until 2003 when he became the subject of a serious murder inquiry, and after 3 years of detective work, he was arrested. Keller admitted to killing a total of 150 elderly women in all in 3 countries and was initially indicted for 5 murders dating as far back as 1994. His admission was that he had started killing as soon as he arrived in the region in 1989. Investigators were able to confirm 23 of them as being his handiwork. But he refused to sign a confession and in September of 2006 tied his shoelaces into a noose, hanging himself from a light fixture in his cell, allegedly saying, "I just wanted to be loved." Friends and relatives of his were identified as being possible accomplices in the crimes, but the police mismanaged much of the evidence and charges were all dismissed. The only person to receive any compensation in the case was his girlfriend, who was one of these suspected accomplices, who received a payout of 10,000 euros from the state for having not watched Keller closely enough while incarcerated. If this is your birthday, I hope you have a great day. Leave me a comment so I can wish you a happy birthday. If you know someone whose birthday it is today, send them this video so they can find out all about their birthday twin. And to Yvan Keller, I say, happy birthday, you bastard.